This incident happened to my mother when she used to work at a hotel in Washington, D.C., back in the 90s as a housekeeper. She needed money because she was a refugee from Vietnam. Even though she didn't know much English at the time, she knew enough to get by at her job, and all the other staff and hotel guests loved her because of how sweet she was. Because of this, anytime high-profile guests, such as the Backstreet Boys, would stay at the hotel, the manager always sent my mom to clean the room since she was good at it. Anyway, one day, a guest came. We'll refer to him as Mr. M because I don't know his real name. He checked into their most expensive suite. As usual, the manager told my mom to take care of his room. As she got there, there was a "Do Not Disturb" sign, so she told the manager she would come back later. What was weird was that no one was ever allowed in his room. The man stayed there for over a month, and not one time did he let a staff come in to clean. However, he paid a lot and he gave a warm welcome every time he passed a staff member, so no one paid him any attention. Then one day, people didn't see him anymore, so they assumed he checked out, even though the receptionist had no account of this. Since it had been so long since the room was cleaned, and the "Do Not Disturb" sign wasn't on the door anymore, the manager told my mom to go check it out, and try to clean up what she could. As she got to the floor, and unlocked the door to the room, a disturbing smell hit her. She couldn't figure out what it was, but she continued to survey the room, which was disgustingly messy. Her words were that it looked like someone had thrown a rave, even though no other guests seemed to have ever gone into the room besides Mr. M. It had looked like Mr. M had deserted the place without telling anyone. My mom was still shocked by the smell, so she tried to track it down. As she followed the smell, she could tell it was coming from the hotel room closet. When she opened the closet, there was nothing but a cardboard box on the ground from which the smell was resonating. My mother's first instinct was to open the box to see what it was, and to clean or throw it out. When she opened the box, what she saw scarred her to this day. It was the rotting and decomposing head of a young woman, chopped off. My mother immediately screamed and got out of there, where she fainted in the elevator. Once she woke up, cops were everywhere and the hotel was like a CSI scene. The manager told her that Mr. M wasn't his real name, and he used a fake credit card to check in. The head of the woman was identified to be like a sex worker. I don't know much more or any nitty-gritty details, but I'm sure one can look it up on the internet for more information. Needless to say, my mom quit that day. I was driving a shortcut from 29 Palms, California to Albuquerque, New Mexico. 29 Palms is located in the desolate high desert east of LA. The shortcut was completely a two-lane road through total nothingness, except for passing through Amboy, California. Amboy is a nearly abandoned town, nearly as far below sea level as Death Valley, with a dormant volcano and lava field on one side, and a salt flat on the other. It was also, at the time, a hotspot for satanic group activity. So I was driving by myself in the afternoon. When I stopped in Amboy, I snapped a picture of the city sign, just to prove I was there to friends who dared me to take that route to I-40. I got back in my car and proceeded to drive up into the mountain range between Amboy and I-40. Once I reached the top, I was driving north through a canyon with high grass on both sides of the road. Up ahead I see some stuff in the middle of the road. As I approach, I slow down to see a red Pontiac Fiero stopped sideways across both lanes. A suitcase open with clothes scattered everywhere, and two bodies laying face down in the road, a man and a woman. I stop 100 feet or so away, and the hair on the back of my neck is standing up. Being a Marine, I reach under the seat and pull out a 9mm pistol and chamber a round. Something seemed very wrong. It looked too perfect, as if it were staged. An ambush. Was I being paranoid? Something was just wrong. Getting out of the car seemed unthinkable. It was the horror movie move. As I scanned the road, I saw a line I could drive. passed the guy in the road on his left, swerved to the right side of the woman behind the Fiero. And I'd be on the other side. I dropped it into first gear, punched it and drove the line I planned. I passed the back of the Fiero, without hitting it or either of the bodies in the road. I continued forward a couple hundred feet, and slowed down so I could breathe and let my heart slow down. As I looked up into the rearview mirror, I saw that the two bodies had gotten up to their knees, and 20 or so people emerged from the tall grass, on either side of the road by the car and bodies. At that moment, my right foot smashed the gas pedal to the floor, and did not let up until I had to slow down for the I-40 East on-ramp. I will never know what would have happened to me, had I gotten out of the car to check on the bodies or stopped my car closer to them. Somehow I do not think it would have been good. Sometimes real life can be scarier than a movie. When I was maybe 10 to 11, I was homesick from school, and was on the couch watching TV when the doorbell rang. It was the mailman, who told me that we had gotten a package, but it was so big that he needed help carrying it. I wasn't that old, but I knew right away something was wrong. I asked him where his truck was, because I didn't see it parked out front. He kept telling me it was around the corner. I asked him why the regular mailman, who always brought lollipops, wasn't here, and I was told he was visiting family. He kept telling me to open the front door, but I politely told him that I wasn't feeling well, and that I wasn't allowed to leave the house. I told him we would pick up the box from the post office, and he was telling me how much of a hassle that would be, and how my mom would want me to do her this favor. I told him that I would come outside, but that I had to get my shoes from upstairs first. I closed the front door, and locked it. Then I ran through the house and locked the back door, and called my neighbor who worked from home. She was a close family friend, and I called her up screaming into the phone that she had to come over right now. Then I stood at the locked front door, and stared at the man through the window in the door. He saw me staring and yelled through the door, asking if I found my shoes, so I yelled to him that I called my neighbor to help carry it, because she's older and stronger. He then just turned around and ran. They never caught him. I always wondered if he ever managed to trick some other kid,